Anyway, Harrison, speaking of Bryce Young, let's talk about another quarterback that was drafted one spot after Bryce Young. And that would happen to be CJ Stroud of the Houston Texans.
Mm.
Now, anyone who may not know, I was on Brandon's podcast, the Throwdown Podcast. Go check out his podcast, like and
Yeah.
subscribe to it every Monday nights at 7 p.m. And I said on his podcast, not only that the Houston Texans may have a chance to win the AFC South Division, at some point in time, we may have to have a discussion who's the better quarterback, CJ Stroud or Trevor Lawrence.
Mm.
And before, I'm not that much of a Trevor Lawrence fanboy like Dev or any of the other guys that I know. I like Trevor Lawrence. I like Trevor Lawrence a lot in terms of his talent, but I got to be honest, folks. So far this season, he has not been playing to the standard that I thought he was going to play in year 3. Year 2, he's in the second year with Doug Peterson. Coming into the season, I didn't think any of us thought Jacksonville. We thought it was their division to lose, and Trevor Lawrence has not been playing well so far. I mean, other than the season opener against the Colts, he hasn't been playing his best football.
Right.
Meanwhile, for CJ, these past couple of games, he's been balling. You look at the Jaguars game on the road and he outplayed Trevor Lawrence, and we saw what he did last week against the
Yep.
Pittsburgh Steelers. So
Right.
I already said what I said about CJ Stroud. Brandon, I'm gonna let you go. Do you think CJ Stroud can be better than Trevor Lawrence?
Well, before I talk about CJ Stroud being better, well, probably better than Trevor Lawrence. I told y'all about Trevor Lawrence, bro. I told y'all what it was going to be about Trevor Lawrence. I told y'all, bro. This man, Trevor Lawrence, bro. When I said he was the most overrated quarterback in the NFL, I said what I said, and I meant it. Not to disrespect, dude. He's a top. Well, he might not be top 10, but he top 10 right now. But yeah,
Still playing
like
football.
yeah, yeah. We seen we seen much of his bad than his good. And it's just facts, man. And ever since that comeback, like people want to get into this hype train. I said, chill. It's only one game. So like, yeah, bro. Like, I hope Trevor Lawrence play well. So I hope he get a bounce back. Yeah, bounce back. But like, that gone. Now with CJ Stroud, um, I like his poise. I like his accuracy. I like his IQ. He can throw the ball. He got yeah, great vision and all that. And this is with the Texans with a bad O line as well. So and he's still cooking. But if he can be better than Trevor Lawrence, he can. He can.
All right. Harrison, how do you feel about CJ Stroud? Do you think he can be better than Trevor Lawrence?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. That is actually a really good question. Maybe. I'm going to say maybe for now. That's all I'm going to say. I mean, since the beginning of the draft, we talked it on, Brandon's podcast about it, saying that we should have drafted CJ Stroud. We should have drafted Anthony Richardson. But guess what? If those two came to my team, they will both struggle. I don't care about the wide receivers. Our wide receivers get no separation whatsoever. Our O line's freaking hurt. I mean, like, I think Bryce Young has a better IQ than CJ Stroud. I think that, but talent, CJ Stroud has better talent than Bryce Young. But from my opinion,
Hmm.
I'm taking IQ over talent every single day. I think Bryce Young has a better IQ than CJ Stroud
Oh
and
wow.
Anthony Richardson. Listen, we've seen this before. Remember in the 2021 class, we saw Trevor Lawrence got drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars, right?
Yeah.
And also Mac Jones and I think Zach Wilson, right? PSP.
Yes. Zach Wilson, number 2. Trey Lance, 3rd. Justin Fields was somewhere a couple spots after the top 10 pick.
People said that Mac Jones was the best quarterback in that draft class.
That's true. That is true.
He got benched against the Dallas Cowboys. It was like what, 38-3?
Yep.
And guess what? He and guess what? Guess what Trevor Lawrence been doing right now? He's playing absolutely amazing, playing like a top 10 quarterback for the past like what 2 years right now since like Doug Peterson. In
Who?
his first year, he was throwing interception, interception, interception again, and interception again. I'm just saying. I think it's going to happen again. I think that Trevor Lawrence was by far one of the best quarterbacks in that draft class this year, and it's not even a question about it. I think next year in the future that Bryce Young is going to be the best quarterback in this draft class next year or the
Uh-oh.
year after that, and I'm calling it right now. And I think CJ Stroud is going to struggle next year or the year after that, and I'm calling
Uh-oh.
it right now.
Uh-oh.
Okay, before I leave it to Champ, Harrison, don't you think you're being a bit too emotional?
Nah, nah, I'm just feeling confident. I'm a Bryce Young fan.
Yeah, okay. All right, fine. I'll let
Panthers
it
fan,
slide.
man.
Champ, do you think CJ Stroud, how good do you think CJ Stroud can be? And do you think he has a chance of being better than Trevor Lawrence?
Honestly, and this is a hot take for me. This is a hot take,
Hold
probably
on.
the hottest I have.
I'm gonna give you the solo on this one.
Here's what I believe about Trevor Lawrence. People automatically see his size and they fall in love with his size and his build and his arm, and they fall for what he looks like rather than what he is. Right now, he's not doing very well.
Mm-hmm.
His rookie year, he didn't do very well. Now,
Mm-hmm.
granted, it takes a little bit more time for certain quarterbacks in order to get better, but I think people fall in love with what he looks like rather than what he really is. He's not a world beater type quarterback that we saw like when Joe Burrow came into the league his second year. He's
Mm-hmm.
not one of those world beater type of quarterbacks. And I think people are fell in love with his size and say, well, that's what a quarterback looks like rather than what he really is. He's really a middle of the pack type quarterback, to be honest with you. If you really want me to be honest with you, he's
Hmm.
middle of the pack, very middle of the pack at this point. So
Mm.
I really think that CJ Stroud has the potential in order to be better, but it's going to be I can see that rivalry kind of being like um, Steve McNair versus Peyton Manning. I think that rivalry can go on for years to come. But like I said, fell in love with Trevor Lawrence's size and his build and how he looks as far as the build of a quarterback. Because he's like six. I think he's like 6'6", 6'7" for a quarterback. Pretty
Yeah.
huge for a quarterback. I mean, prototypical quarterback. 6'7", huge arm, mobile in the pocket. But I think people fall in love with Trevor Lawrence with what he looks like rather than what he was. Sort of like they did with Rob Johnson when he was in Buffalo.
All right. And I will give you I will say this about CJ, folks. I think organization rise right now in the AFC South. You can make an argument for the Indianapolis Colts, and they've looked pretty good so far on this season. They actually looked good last week against the Rams. Almost came back and won against the Rams. I like where the Houston Texans are as an organization. I've been telling folks what D'Amico Ryans has been doing, and he's done a damn good job. He's going to be one of the young ascending head coaches in the NFL. This is a dude who's played with the Texans, defensive rookie of the year, defensive minded guy, high character person, former defensive coordinator of the San Francisco 49ers. The Texans, they drafted the quarterback of their future in CJ, and they also traded to get the third pick in Will Anderson Jr. So you have those two as the cornerstones of those franchise. And I think with Houston in time, as long as they can do some things, particularly offensive line, and CJ got pieces. Tank Dell, Nico Collins had a big game last week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And you also look at Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz is a very underrated tight end. Did a good job during his time with the Dallas Cowboys. They got Pierre, the running back. So they got some pieces. And I think CJ actually has a chance of being a legitimate top 10 quarterback in the NFL. And I think the knock on him was Ohio State quarterbacks. Quarterbacks who've come from that college didn't pan out that well. You look at Troy Smith, the Heisman Trophy winner, didn't work out for him. You look at Terrell Pryor, didn't work out. God rest his soul, Dwayne Haskins. You look at all the other quarterbacks out of Ohio State, didn't pan out well. CJ is changing the narrative. And I think CJ over time, this is the type of dude that you can work with. And he has the size 6'3, 220, sharp IQ. He's not the most mobile or athletic quarterback in the world, but he's mobile enough. And he has that dog, that it factor in him. He has confidence. And Chip, he went up against the Georgia Bulldogs, even though
Yeah.
they lost that one, but still, you didn't look at CJ and said, oh, man, he was the reason why they lost. CJ played his ass off in that game, and he
Yeah.
could make all those types of throws. And when I started to fall in love with CJ Stroud, I think it was the game against Utah. I think it was the Rose Bowl game. He, even though Jackson Smith Njigba was putting up crazy numbers, and he also had a young Marvin Harrison Jr. But the way CJ was spinning that ball, the way he threw those dimes, the way he threw the ball with the accuracy, anticipation, that's a great special quality to have. And I feel like this is the type of dude that you can roll with. I think Bryce Young will be fine in the NFL level. I just think, though, the Panthers have to do a better job surrounding him with some offensive line because, after all, he's not the most prototypical quarterback in terms of size.
That is true.
Anthony Richardson, I think he has the higher ceiling because of his athleticism and his size. He still needs to work on his accuracy, but I think so far with the Colts, I think he's been very impressive. But CJ to me was the sure thing. So I think CJ will have the brighter future. Do I think he could be better than Trevor? Yes, but Trevor so far, man, and I can't defend him anymore. I can't continuously defend him when he has these types of performances, especially the ones against the Texans and in week 2. Trevor Lawrence, and we got to hold Trevor Lawrence to a high standard because coming out of college, he was the best prospect since what? Andrew Luck. People loved his
Yeah.
size, 6'5, 6'6, 220 or whatever. Cannon of an arm, can make all the requisite throws. He's getting way too much of a pass whenever things go wrong. The first year, okay, he's a rookie. Urban Meyer was his head coach. It was a disaster in Jacksonville the first year. I mean, Urban Meyer, and we don't need to get into all the specific details. We already know. You
Yeah.
bring in Doug Peterson, Super Bowl champion head coach, a guy who knows how to work with quarterbacks, who's played the quarterback position. He can work out with Trevor Lawrence. And they did well the first year. They were able to win a playoff game. Now, so far, they're looking bad. And it's looking so bad right now for Trevor. We're talking more about CJ Stroud and Anthony Richardson more. And not only that, though, what I love about it, the AFC South is no longer considered a weaker division because now you got some legit quarterbacks to go up against Trevor. So that's what I really love. So Trevor Lawrence, him being considered the best quarterback in the division, that's not going to be the case for the long term. Some point we're going to have to talk about CJ and we're going to talk about Anthony Richardson and Jacksonville to win the AFC South. It's not theirs to lose. There's going to be some legit competition that they have to face. But before I let y'all have one last comment before we move on to another subject. My man Da Vinci, Dev, go check out his podcast as well. He said, no, CJ is not better, but he is playing very well. We all know Dev. Anyone who knows him, he loves himself some Clemson Tigers. He loves himself some Trevor Lawrence. Dev, if you want to hop on the pod to explain your case, I already sent the StreamYard link in the comment section below. But one last comment, y'all, before we move on to another subject.
I heard about Urban Meyer. I remember the Michigan State fired their head coach, right?
Yes. And if Urban Meyer decides to become a head coach, and if you're a college football program, why bring him back on?
He
I
already
mean,
said he wasn't interested in the job, though.
Right. Thank God.
I don't want Coach Mike Elko to leave. I want him to stay at Duke with the way he's been doing right now. It's been absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm.
We have him until 2029. I mean, we can't waste his opportunities with Coach Mike Elko. So,
all right. Champ, Brandon, do you have any final comments about CJ or Trevor Lawrence before we move on to the next subject?
One subject
No.
about the Ohio State quarterbacks. he's the first Ohio State quarterback that is a pure pocket passer. And I
Thank
think that's why he's more successful than the other ones. Because I think a lot of those coaches, including Urban Meyer, were so focused on those quarterback speed and their ability to make things happen when they legs that they did develop them as passers. And I think that is why CJ Stroud is essentially breaking the curse of the Ohio State quarterbacks because he is a pure passer rather than trying to make plays. Can he make plays with his legs? Yes. But he stays in that doggone pocket until it collapses.
you. No doubt about that.